Hi, welcome to Jimmy D's RC page. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks to my subscribers and thanks for checking out the page. Please, if you like the video, feel free to subscribe, click the like button, share it around, and click the bell for notifications. So, today we're working continuously to get this Great Planes 40 size Spitfire in the air. So what I've done is I've finished covering the fuselage all around. A few wrinkles. It's gotten a bit cooler since it was tight when I covered it, but the wrinkles seem to be creeping in a little bit. I've mounted the engine. You can see that that engine is mounted inverted. It's upside down. So I'm waiting on a few things to finish up the fuse. I'm going to have an onboard glow system so that when I go to low RPM, the fuel tends to be quite wet, the nitro, because it's an alcohol. And it can snuff out that glow plug. So I'm waiting for an onboard glow. We're going to hook that up with onboard glow so that when I'm at low RPM or low throttle setting, it's going to have a glow driver to keep the glow plug lit. So that's about ready. I've got my hardware installed. I've got my push rods for my rudder and my elevator installed, as well as my throttle. That's all ready to go. Once I get the onboard glow figured out, then I'm going to put the fuel tank in and route the fuel lines. And that will be one step closer to getting in the air. I just thought I'd show you what I've been doing with the wing. Here it is right back here. All right, so the wing is just about ready to cover. I just want to remount the hardware and balance the model laterally, which is to say to balance it in roll left and right. And how you're going to do that, or how I'm going to do that, you're not going to have to do anything. I'll just do a quick demo here for you. Very, very quick. I might just move this stuff out of the way. This is for a project we're going to be working on shortly. The epoxy and the fabric. Just get those cables so they won't get caught when I mount the wing. There we go. In it goes. And of course they're going to be screwed in with nylon screws when I get it ready. Basically what I'm going to do is balance the model laterally, which is to say I'm going to pick it up from the tip of the propeller shaft and the top of the tail. I'm going to pick it up a few times. Once the screws are in, I might put those in now so we don't lose the wing as I demonstrate what I'm going to do to balance the model. Oh, it's heavy with that motor on it. A lot heavier than I'm used to. I'm just used to throwing it around and putting it wherever I want. Not now. I'll just quickly mount these screws back in. Might fast forward this part, we'll see how we go. Just so that the wing doesn't come off. Are you okay under there, Captain J? Nylon screws here. They do a great job holding the wing securely. You can see, I don't know if you can see, I'll pick the model up shortly. I have put in the wheel wells. So those cuts, I epoxied them in, as you would have seen from a previous video. I don't know if I mounted or if I've put the video up on the page or not, because it was a bit quiet. It was the middle of the night I was working on it and I was having to whisper, so the sound quality may not be good enough for me to throw on YouTube. But basically what I did is I took those cups that I had for the door handles and I epoxied them in. Epoxied them again. I cut them down with the Dremel so that they were level with the surface of the bottom of the wing, and then I epoxied them one last time around the rim. I cut them to shape to fit where the undercarriage strut is going to be, the oleo. Well, it's not an oleo, it doesn't have any shock absorption on it. So basically where the wire is going to be for the wheel. And then what I did is threw in some Monolite filler, balsa filler, and then I sanded it down, and now I painted them with a color matched paint for the covering. Anyway, so that's what that project has turned out as. It looks pretty good to me. I'm a lot happier. It's a lot better than just being, wow, I gotta watch this model. It's a lot better than just being uncovered. You can already see how this wing seems to be a bit heavier. So I'm going to assume that as I lift the model that wingtip is going to drop. And let's see what happens here as I do so. So I'm just lifting it. Oh, it didn't drop on that side. Let's try it again. The other one is dropping. That's surprising. So this one is dropping when it's sitting still. That must be a matter of where the center of the wing is. And now that wing is dropping. So I'm going to add a little bit of weight to the starboard side wing to balance the model laterally. Yeah, that port wing is dropping consistently. And I don't think it's how I'm lifting it. I'm going to switch sides just to see if that's what's going on. Let's switch sides and see if it's my fingers or anything with how I'm lifting it. No, it's dropped again. I think I grabbed I just grabbed the push rod to lift it, so that wasn't good. I'm grabbing the tail wheel. It looks like it's nice and centered at the back. One more time. Yeah, we're going to add some weight to that side. Anyway, so that's what's going on with the model at the moment. Now, boy, did I stuffed up this morning. What I did was I thought, oh, let's mount the cowl. After I had the engine done, I was mounting the cowl, and I thought, well, we're going to need a little bit more air. I only had a very small hole cut out. Sorry about that. I only had a very small hole cut out in the cowl, just so I could access the glow plug. And I was looking at it, and I thought, you know what? Clearly, I built this one. I didn't know as much about engines as I do now. That's going to need a little bit more cooling because these vanes here, the heatsink on the cylinder, aren't exposed to the air at all. Furthermore, there's no way for the air to escape at the back of the cowl. So you may get air in, but it's going to be turbulent, and you're not going to get a lot of clean airflow going right through the cowl, which is what cowl flaps are for on real aeroplanes. It's an opening at the back of the cowl so the air can come into the intakes and escape and flow freely to cool the engine. So I thought, oh, well, I'm going to have to widen out that hole. So I took my hole saw and I started widening out the hole on the cowl, and unfortunately when I did it, it grabbed some of the fabric underneath. The hole saw has quite aggressive teeth on it. Grabbed some of the fabric and it torsioned the whole cowl and tore it apart. You can see there's a crack that I've already repaired. That was ripped wide open, went all the way down to here. That was ripped open, that was ripped open. This whole bit was ripped right off. But that size of the hole, I think, is going to be much better. And I think what I'm going to do to increase the airflow is I'm actually going to drill holes in where the dummy exhaust ports are so that we can at least get some airflow in and out of that engine cowl. Aerodynamically, I don't know if I can really cause too much damage, but I guess that's something we'll discover when we take it flying for the first time. So what I've got to do now on this repair is reinforce all of those cracks inside. Because all I've done is used a thin CA adhesive. So the CA is acrylic, if that's the way you pronounce it, adhesive. It's like super glue. So I've used the thin CA. I've matched up the cracks, so it's all matched up nicely. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the old trusty epoxy that I used for the wheel wells, and I'm going to be using this fiberglass cloth, which is basically fabric. So what I'll do is I'm going to paint the cracked areas with epoxy that hasn't yet cured, and then I'm going to press the fabric onto that, and then if it needs any more epoxy, I'll paint a little bit of extra epoxy on top of the fabric, and that's going to provide a very strong reinforcing layer for the back so that if we do have another break, it shouldn't break in that area. Then what I'm going to have to do is come back over. I'm going to have to sand down the whole cowl again because there's glue marks now and there's some brush marks from when I painted it. I used a brush instead of the airbrush, which I should have done. So I'm going to have to sand down the whole cowl. I'm going to put those vents in like I spoke about, sand down the whole cowl, and then I'm going to have to fill all the gaps with that model light. So I'm going to want to make sure that I put that layer of fabric behind any areas where there's a crack. I'll fill them with model light, sand it back again so it's nice and smooth, prime it again, paint it again. This break that I caused this morning, that's going to set me back probably about a week, considering I can only work about an hour or two on this thing a day. So I was hoping to fly it this weekend. 3 or 4 days from now, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point. It looks like it's going to be another week or two until I can start thinking about taking her up for her maiden flight. So I'll show you the work, and then we'll catch up after. Cheers. Okay, so here we go. We're going to effect the repair on the cowl. You can see the inside of the cowl there. I've got my container that I'm going to be mixing my epoxy in. I've already pre-cut some fabric rectangles here of fabric that I'm going to be using. It's very fibrous, that stuff. I'm going to be using those inside the cowl. And I've also got a few 5-gram weights for the starboard side of the wing because I'm going to be balancing that as well. Those are just 5-gram. Fe is iron, so they must be 5-gram iron weights, although they are a bit lustrous for iron. Who knows what they're made of. Okay, so on go the gloves. Whenever you're working with epoxy, it is quite a messy and sticky and gooey type of substance. It also doesn't smell great. It gets stuck in your skin and doesn't come off readily. It's quite a greasy substance. I think it's the resin that does that. I don't know if it's the hardener or the resin that smells, but let's go ahead and start mixing it up. Now, of course, this is just a 5-minute epoxy, so once I get it in, I'm not going to have a lot of time to work, so I'll just plan ahead here. So I'm going to be painting from about this section back to here, all the way through, down and over, and try to get all of that section just to reinforce it. Then I'll lay the fabric down. While I'm laying the fabric down, you know what I might do actually? I might do this second. I might do this bit second. I might do the wing tip first because that's going to be quick and easy. That's not going to be too difficult and not too finicky. I think that that's going to be a bit more finicky and I'm going to want to spend more time on the cowl. So I might do the wing tip weights first and then I'll come over and do the cowl. So let's see how this goes. You're either going to watch success or failure or mediocrity. It's going to be one of the three. I don't think it could really be anything else. Starting to run a little low on epoxy. I've been using it a fair amount lately. But once I'm done these two jobs, I don't really see myself using it on this model anymore. But you never know. So I'll keep the chemicals separate from each other until I'm ready to mix, which is right about now. All right, I'll get those out of the way. I'll cover them so they don't end up being a problem. I'm just inside the garage here, so it is a bit windy. So I'll put them in the box and seal it up so the box doesn't blow away. All right, I got my brush. I got my stick to mix. I'll move that forward a little bit, give me some room to work. And here we go. We're going to get to it. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about what epoxy is and etc. because I don't want that to slow me down to the point that I don't have too much time left to work with it. So very quickly here, I'm just going to paint in the areas where I'm going to be attaching the weights. Okay, so there we go. There's the first, in, firm, second, firm, and third, in, firm. There are my 3 wingtip weights. And I might just make sure they have enough in and around so that they won't come loose anytime soon. All right, there we go. Those are the wing weights. Now, let's get into the cowl itself. All right, I hope you can see that. Basically, I'm painting the epoxy over all the cracks and all the areas that I'm going to want to fill. There are areas here that I'm going to want to fill, and I'm painting over those as well. I don't think this needs it down here. I think I've just overdone it just a touch, but that's okay. I'd rather have too much than not enough. All right. I think that's going to do it. I see some daylight through there, so I might go a bit higher. All right, now let's get that fabric in there. I'll leave this in here. Okay, so the first bit, is that the right bit? No, I want this to go this way. It's a bit high, so I'll just drag it down a touch.
And this is why the gloves. This is why the gloves, because this part is the very messy part. Okay, it looks like I'll drag it down just a touch more. It doesn't want to drag anymore. It's already saturated, so that's fine. I'll just leave it. I wanted the smaller one for the front. That is this one. It's already getting very finicky and not easy to work with, but that's, you see, look at that. Wow. It's because of all the epoxy on the glove. It's just sticking to the epoxy on the glove and coming away when I pull it away. Did I say that this might be an exercise in mediocrity? I think it's not pretty. You tell me what you think in the comments below. There we go. I think she's at least getting there now. Okay, that's going to need some painting. And I might just, you know, I don't think I need to reinforce. There's some daylight coming through here, but I don't think that's a real worry. I really don't. I might just put a very small amount there. I'm just going to cut off what I don't want. So I'm happy to just leave that hang like that. I'm just going to cut off what I don't want later after it dries. And that'll be fine. Okay, now if I can dab the brush without disturbing the fabric too much. We'll get a really nice finish in here. I might be overdoing the epoxy. Anybody with more experience than me, if you think I've overdone it, please tell me. And as I'm going to be tackling some scratch-built models after this, and I want to make sure I've got my technique relatively down pat before I start going to scratch-built models. Like I said, I acquired a few plans. I don't know if we've spoken about it, but in that white tube you see over there, I've got a plan for a Lancaster. Oh boy, 4-engine World War II bomber, right? That was the bouncing bomb. The dam busters flew the Lancaster. And I've also got a plan for a Chipmunk, which I have about 30 or 40 hours on as a commercial pilot. So those two planes I hope to be building in the future from scratch, not from a kit, no laser cut, anything, just straight from scratch. So if you see if you have any suggestions for how I could do this better, and you actually know what you're talking about, don't go making suggestions if you don't know. If you actually do know, please go ahead and suggest kindly and gently. This is just a hobby after all. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good. I hope you can see that okay and that the camera picked all of that work up, which is just about right because things are just now starting to get quite warm and tacky. So we'll see how we go. It looks pretty good, man. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so we'll catch you on the outro. Cheers.
Whew. Oh, that was tough work. I had to work fast to make sure I got it all done in time, and I think I just finished just as it was starting to get really warm. Of course, that epoxy, like I said before, is an exothermic reaction, so it releases heat as the chemicals react with each other, and it really gets the hottest just as it bonds and starts to harden up. I think that job is more than adequate to strengthen up all the cracks that I went ahead and put in it this morning. So from here, what I'm going to do is filling all the gaps with Monolite, and then once those gaps are filled up and that Monolite is dry, it comes the long, tedious process of sanding. This is a combination of different types of surfaces. I've got straight surfaces, I've got curved surfaces with gradual corners, I've got high spots, I've got all these basically dummy exhaust ports with very intricate curves and corners in there that I'm going to have to get around. And then once it's all sanded back, then I'll fill it again, sand it one more time as required, prime it, and then I'm going to use the airbrush to paint it. And I don't think I'm going to be putting any more holes in it. What happened was, like I said, I just had a small hole about this big here, and I doubled it up in size so I could get access to the carburetor of the engine for priming, and so that I could get better cooling across the motor itself. So that's that job done, and balancing the wing, of course. balancing the airplane laterally. So without any more to do, I think we'll call that a project for today, done and dusted. So again, thank you for stopping by. If you liked what you saw today and you want to see more of the same, please hit the subscribe button. I hope you liked the new camera. It felt pretty good to me. I don't know what it looked like. I guess I'll find out when we decide whether we're going to post this. If you like the video, please click like, hit the bell for notifications if you're a subscriber, and we'll catch you next time. All the best.